absolutely limit everything that you do. In fact, that is one of the reasons that belts were developed, is because too many guys have too weak a cores, or they were trying to do too high of a workload and their core couldn't handle it, and they needed a way to substitute something in for that. You know, talking about the real world, there's no whatever in the jungle. There's no knee wraps in the jungle, and there's no belts in the jungle. But, you know, he always talked about that, just people who are goofing off in the gym in a way. They oftentimes think that they're hardcore, and how it's all about all this accessory stuff that they seem to need. And they need all these different devices. Belts have their place for competition, but as far as the average lifter who just wants to get in a really good shape needing either one, not really. I don't think they're even useful. But you see people who have to have them. Same thing, all these guys who have all of these, they wrap everything up, they need sleeves, they need wraps. Why? Because, well, my joints hurt. Your joints hurt. Well, your joints hurt because you have muscle imbalances and you don't know how to train. They're because of piss-poor training methods, and it could be anything from piss-poor technique to muscle imbalances to piss-poor training programming. Oh, I go hard all the time. Oh, I lift hard. I push myself to the limits. I do all this volume. Well, clearly you're not recovering. Clearly you don't know how to train, because if you're having to wrap everything up and need sleeves and everything else, your joints and connective tissue aren't recovering from your training. You're clearly programming it wrong. Again, you have people who can't even program for themselves. And if people are having to wrap and strap up, wraps and sleeves and everything else all the time because of nagging pains, or to keep joints warm because they hurt, these people can't even write a training program for themselves. How in the hell are they going to write training programs for 100,000 people? They can't even sort their own training out. They can't even balance their recovery and their deloads with their connective tissue. Or they use such terrible technique that it's causing problems also. But there's the thing also. If that's the case, they're teaching these same techniques to all their viewers. And this is what people learn from. This is what people want to learn from. He's asking me, hey, why are you choosing to train without a belt? The point is, yes, there seems to be extra activation in the studies we've seen in the core when a belt is used. The problem is that when it comes down to specificity of training, it doesn't seem to carry over. If a person's goal was to purely powerlift, and they did not care at all about any other performance element, that would be a logical argument. The problem is that, for me personally, I want to be better than just a competition squat, bench, and deadlift. I have other exercises I want to be better at. I want to be overall more athletic and have an overall strength base. Well, having an overall strength base requires me to be strong without a belt also. And there's some points to consider here. First of all, when it comes to even powerlifting competition, Jamie Lewis actually walked into competition his first powerlifting meet and became number 2 in the world in his class, and he didn't wear a belt. He didn't train with a belt, didn't wear a belt, walked in and became number 2 in the world in his class in powerlifting without a belt. He put a belt on and then broke the records. The argument could almost be made, if you're not going to break a record, you trained without a belt. Personally, I want to be better than just a competition squat, bench, and deadlift. I have other exercises I want to be better at. People honestly saying, well, they would be even better if they trained with the belt year-round. Are you sure of that? Guys who train with belts to build their strength up oftentimes are not as strong as you would expect when they take the belt off. In other words, they're kind of one-trick ponies. They can live with a belt. Personally, I want to be better than just a competition squat, bench, and deadlift. I have other exercises I want to be better at. I've also seen guys who squat over 450 with a belt. It turns out that 315 is about all they can handle without a belt. I believe that, yes, you get better overall core strength and core development without a belt. When you take the belt off, the guy should have just as strong, if not a stronger core than the guy who trains without a belt. In fact, in theory, his core should be stronger. But it's not the case. The guy who trains year-round without a belt and only puts it on a peak for a powerlifting meet can usually still squat 450 without the belt. The guy who never squats over 300 beltless, when you take the belt off, his 500-pound belted squat, he's lucky to get 350 or 365. A weak core will absolutely limit everything that you do. In fact, that is one of the reasons that belts or develop is because too many guys have too weak a cores, or they were trying to do too high of a workload and their core couldn't handle it, and they needed a way to substitute something in for that. So what I would suggest to a lot of people out there is that maybe your training with a belt is making your core weaker. Yeah, sure, you can engage the core better by pressing against the belt, but it doesn't give you carryover strength, and it doesn't give you the development that you might want. So ditching the belt is going to be real high on the list. It's going to be real high on the list.